strategically roll money out of your 401k. In this episode, I'm going to address the question, what should I do with my 401k right now? I've been asked this question many, many times, and depending upon your circumstances, I'm going to recommend you strongly consider getting that money out sooner than later and get the taxes over and done with. You're going to learn why, and I'm going to give you examples and show you how we have helped people save $250,000, $750,000, one couple, $1.2 million of unnecessary tax. So my name's Doug Andrew, and I've been very, very blessed in my life to have written 11 books thus far. My 12th one is going to be released here in a few months. And we have been so honored to have a receptivity of these books, help us to have a New York Times and Wall Street Journal #1 bestseller. Several have been bestsellers. But in all of these financial books that I've written, because about half of them are financial strategy books, I explain things that I have helped people for 4.5 decades to optimize their financial assets and minimize unnecessary taxes and empower their true, or what I call authentic wealth. I have found that many, many people have too much money trapped in traditional IRAs, 401ks, yet to be taxed accounts. And the premise was wrong from the beginning. They were told to put money into a tax-deferred account or vehicle like an IRA or 401k, being told you're going to be in a lower bracket later when you retire, so that will be the best way to save money. Folks, I can count on my hand the number of people who were in a lower tax bracket when they retired if they accumulated any type of a respectable retirement nest egg. People are in as high or higher brackets when they retire as they were ever in during their earning years. Why? It's because a lot of people are going down the highway of life, so to speak, trying to achieve this destination we call financial independence, and they've got one foot on the gas pedal, and the other foot is on the brake pedal, and they don't know they're doing that. They're putting aside money in tax-deferred accounts, and the foot on the brake is killing their tax deductions along the way. And so they pay off their house, and so when they retire, they don't have that deduction. The kids are gone when they retire, so you don't have that deduction. If you're a business owner, you don't have those deductions. You're not contributing money to IRAs and 401ks in retirement. You don't have those deductions, and Congress keeps raising taxes because they love to spend. So people are not in lower tax brackets when they retire. Now, a Roth IRA or 401k is a step in the right direction, but in this episode, you're going to learn why I have never owned an IRA or 401k. I never will. What I will share with you is far better than any of those. And so when people ask, what should I do with my 401k right now? I would get the money out strategically sooner than later and get the taxes over and done with. But it's what you do with the after-tax money that makes all the difference, so get ready. Now, a lot of people come to the realization that they are likely not going to be in a lower tax bracket, or there are certain times when it may behoove them to access money, get the taxes over and done with. This happened during the year 2020 with the COVID-19, where you can have a no penalty withdrawal out of a 401k, out of your IRAs because of the COVID-19 stress, whether it was financial, physical, or whatever. People lost work, they lost their income. And so the government allowed people to be able to prove that they suffered a hardship and access up to $100,000 out of an IRA or 401k, even if you're under the age of 59 and a half without a 10% penalty. Not only that, but you could opt to spread out the taxes over a 3-year period instead of being hit with taxes all in one single year. So there are certain times when it may behoove you to do that. So when I get the question, golly, what should I do with my 401k right now? Well, I'm always going to say you need to look at your situation, your income in a given year. Is your employer going to allow you to tap into the 401k? Some employers will not let you touch a 401k until you leave, until you retire. Others will let you maybe borrow against it, which may be a good strategy to borrow, but you do have to pay it back. Otherwise, it's going to be counted as income. So the employer has rules. You have a 10% penalty if you're accessing money before the age of 59 and a half. But there have been many times where I have shown people that paying a 10% penalty on top of their very, very low income tax bracket in a given year where maybe they were in the hospital for several months or whatever, that was lower than if they pulled it out when they were employed and working. So don't get hung up on, oh, I don't want a 10% penalty. Because sometimes the 10% penalty added on top of it is no greater than the highest bracket you will likely be in if you keep procrastinating, putting it off until you're retired. And a lot of people have a hard time with this. So you want to take into consideration the taxes, any penalties. Can your employer allow you to do this? Are there any government regulations that allow you to tap into this? And then I'm going to show you next how to strategically do this over as soon as a 5-year period. Now, if this is sounding a little bit like, ooh, I don't know if I want to do that. At the end, I'm going to gift you a free copy of my most recent best-selling book, and you can read, study, and learn why this is very powerful. But in the meantime, let me just share with you that what you're trying to do is strategically get the money out of your 401ks, IRAs, your qualified plans, sooner than later in a fashion where you pay no more tax than you need to. You don't want to force yourself into a higher bracket unless you think in future years you're going to be even in a higher bracket. And that's what I mean by strategically. But you want to get the money out. The tax is over and done with. Number 2, you want to reposition the after-tax money into something that's going to be tax-free from now on. Now, my favorite vehicle for that is what I call the laser fund, and that's why I'm going to gift you a copy at the end of this episode of my 300-page book, The Laser Fund, that has all kinds of charts, graphs, and explanations and 62 actual client stories. One chapter is totally dedicated to this concept here. And so why do you want to do this? You want to get taxes over and done with at today's lower rates. When I ask most Americans, when I speak to an audience of 200 or 20,000, I'll say, how many of you think that future tax rates will likely be lower? I get nothing but crickets. How many think they're going to be the same? Oh, 1 or 2 hands go up. But when I say, how many think they're going to be higher? A sea of hands goes up. And I go, well, if that's true, if you're all convinced taxes will likely be higher in the future because of irresponsible government spending and so forth, why are you postponing, deferring tax to some future perceived unknown advantage? And now you have this much money that you're going to pay higher taxes than if you just got the taxes over and done with sooner than later? People go, yeah, that doesn't make sense. See, they don't stop to think about it. So what you want to do is strategically get the money out, the taxes over and done with, because your current tax bracket is likely the lowest bracket you will ever be in. So one of the most critical parts of this strategic rollout process is to reposition the after-tax money into a financial vehicle that's going to be tax-free from now on. Now, oftentimes people say, well, what about a Roth? If you're going to take money out of an IRA or 401k and pay the tax, why don't you just roll it over to a Roth because you have to pay tax? And now it's tax-free from now on. Well, yeah, a Roth is a step in the right direction, but I think it still has too many strings attached. That's why I've never owned an IRA or 401k, and I never will, but I've never owned a Roth IRA or 401k, and I never will. See, Roths, you fund them with after-tax dollars. You can accumulate your money tax-free, and then when you take it out, it's tax-free. My favorite vehicle, called the Laser Fund, and my most recent best-selling book that you can claim a free copy of, The Laser Fund, explains this in great detail, has those two benefits. It's had those benefits long before Roths came out in 1997. It's been a sacred tax-free cash cow for over 107 years, protected in the Internal Revenue Code. And when you put your money over into the laser fund, you have 4 additional benefits that Roths will never have. You can accumulate your money not only tax-free, but you can put in larger lump sum deposits. I can put in $30,000. I can put in $300,000. You can't put that much in a Roth. You're limited to a percent of your income or a dollar amount. In fact, people who make too much money can't even participate in a Roth. That's why many CPAs and tax attorneys call the laser fund the rich man's Roth. I always snicker because you don't have to be rich to have one, but rich people who make too much money can't own a Roth. So they choose the laser fund, and they're pretty smart, and that's why they choose it anyway. So I can put in large amounts. If I put in $30,000 and I could have put in $300,000, I have $270,000 of room that I never lose. I can put that much, make it up in the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth year, 10 years later. You can't make up for room you didn't use in a Roth. Also, if I need to access money for any reason, I can. If I put in $300,000 into the laser fund and 30 days later I need $250,000 back for some business opportunity, I can do that. There's no penalty. You can't touch money in a Roth for 5 years or till you're 59 and a half. You have all those strings attached. With the laser fund, you can use indexing, which I explain on this channel. Be sure and search it. This is where I can participate when the market goes up, but not lose when the market goes down because my money is not invested in the market. It's linked to the market, so I can participate without the risk. The last feature with the laser fund is whenever I die, it will blossom in value and transfer totally tax-free. So there's not a Roth around that will do that. For example, if I died in an accident tomorrow, every million I would have in my portfolio of laser funds would blossom to about 2.5 million and transfer income tax-free. So why would I ever own a Roth when I can have the 2 benefits of a Roth and 4 additional benefits that Roths will never have? So I've been talking about the laser fund, my favorite vehicle. It's also the title of my most recent best-selling book. They've been flying off of the warehouse shelves. This has a subtitle, How to Diversify and Create the Foundation for a Tax-Free Retirement. So when people ask the question, what should I do with my 401k right now? Usually we look at how they can strategically get the money rolled out, get the taxes over and done with, and repositioned into a portfolio of laser funds. And this book is actually 2 books in one. This side is for left brain thinkers. This is 14 chapters with all kinds of charts and graphs and explanations. If you learn more from stories and examples, right brain thinking, you flip the book over and you read this side. This is about 100 pages, 12 chapters with 62 actual client stories and examples, many that will help you understand what I've been teaching in this episode. And so you will learn about the laser fund and how it's like a sacred tax-free cash cow grandfathered in the Internal Revenue Code under 3 sections of the code, 72E, 7702, and 101A. And you must be compliant with 3 tax citations called TEFRA, DEFRA, and TAMRA. You will learn about these when you read and study this book. I also have videos if you like to watch and learn, listen and learn on this YouTube channel. Click subscribe and search other topics that are related to this one. But if you would like to claim your free copy, like I've been promising, simply go to laserfund.com, L-A-S-E-R, fund.com, and you contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling. I'll cover the rest of that cost. And I'll pay for the book. Don't pay $20 on Amazon.com. I will fire out a hard copy to you, and then there's options in there if you want a digital copy or an audio version. And you can also watch and learn with all kinds of different episodes to empower yourself so that you'll know better what to do with your IRAs and 401ks than leaving them there, continuing to paint yourself into the tax trap.